Have you ever wondered, why do we care so much about the gaze and judgments of others? A frown in a meeting, a fleeting comment online, or someone's silence, all of these can keep us overthinking for hours. We live as if our worth were determined by the world. But the truth is simple. Most people do not care about us nearly as much as we imagine. They are preoccupied with their own worries and goals. What we believe to be the whole world watching is, in reality, just an illusion of the mind. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "We love ourselves more than anyone else, yet we value the opinions of others above our own." When we let public opinion dictate our lives, we hand over control to others. Conversely, when we accept that few truly pay much attention to us, we discover freedom, a deep freedom that arises from within. This is the very spirit of Stoicism. It does not teach us to become insensitive. Rather, it reminds us to care only about what lies within our control: our thoughts, our actions, our virtue. Praise and criticism, looks and judgments, all are external, and none can serve as the foundation of our true worth. When we truly understand this, everything changes. Instead of fearing the crowd's opinion, we dare to live authentically, to act according to our own values and goals. Instead of chasing recognition, we find inner peace and strength. The journey you are about to embark on is a journey of facing the truth, learning to let go, and discovering freedom. Stoicism is not some distant philosophy. It is a compass that helps us break free from the spiral of comparison and judgment, so that we may live a life of freedom, courage, and deeper meaning. And if you wish to continue walking alongside stories, lessons, and Stoic principles applied to modern life, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss any new content. And together, we can build a community of people striving each day to live with more calm, strength, and freedom. Number 1. The truth. No one cares as much as you. Think throughout life. We often live as though every pair of eyes is fixed upon us. We walk into a room and assume everyone notices the clothes we wear, every gesture we make. We speak up in a meeting and then spend hours afterward analyzing whether people thought we were unprofessional. We post a single line on social media and then anxiously check how many likes, how many comments it has received. It feels as if the entire world is sitting there, watching, judging, and determining our worth. Yet, if we look closer, we realize the opposite is true. Most people don't care about us nearly as much as we imagine. They are far too busy with their own lives, bills to pay, relationships to maintain, worries about the future. If they do think of us, it is only for a fleeting moment before they return to their own concerns. What we believe to be the center of the world is in reality nothing more than a tiny fragment in someone else's mind. Psychology calls this the spotlight effect. It tricks us into feeling as if we are always standing on stage beneath a glaring light, with the audience staring at our every move. But research has shown that others actually pay far less attention to us than we suppose. They glance briefly, and then return to their own matters. Think back to a time when you made a mistake at work. Perhaps you stumbled over your words, or submitted a report with errors. You may have blamed yourself for weeks, convinced that everyone was whispering behind your back. But in truth, your colleagues were preoccupied with their own mistakes. A week later, no one remembered the detail except you. A month later, even you could see how meaningless it was. The same thing happens in daily life. You trip on the street by accident. Your face turns red, imagining that everyone must be laughing at me. But in reality, most people only glanced, then continued their phone conversations or hurried to their appointments. That event existed only in your memory, not in theirs. The danger lies in how our minds exaggerate the attention of others. Every word, every look, every gesture, we interpret as some hidden message about ourselves. If someone doesn't greet us, we assume they despise us. If someone doesn't reply to a message right away, we think we don't matter. It is these assumptions that drain us, not objective reality. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "Do not waste the rest of your life worrying about what others think of you. Focus instead on what you can control: your own mind and your own actions." That wisdom still holds true today, in a world where we are constantly pulled into cycles of comparison and the search for validation. If you pause and observe, you will see clearly. Each person carries their own burden. The colleague you fear is judging you is actually thinking about a looming bank deadline. The friend you worry no longer values you is actually troubled by family issues. Their world revolves around themselves, just as your world revolves around you. So why do we believe they spend so much time dissecting and evaluating us? Accepting this truth is not easy. Since childhood, we have been taught to please everyone, to polish our image in the eyes of others. We grow up with the obsession that our worth depends on external approval. But if we continue to live that way, our lives will forever be controlled by passing glances, rather than by steadfast principles within. Imagine another scenario. You walk into an important meeting. Instead of obsessing over what colleagues might think, you focus on the content you need to deliver. You speak with calmness and sincerity. Perhaps some people don't pay attention, perhaps others disagree, but that does not shake you, because you understand that their attention is fleeting, while your true value lies in your composure and actions. In the very moment you stop and chasing absolute recognition, you begin to taste inner freedom. No longer are you bound by every word of praise or criticism. No longer do you live in fear of what people think. Instead, you devote your energy to what truly matters: improving yourself, fulfilling your work, nurturing meaningful relationships. The truth that no one cares as much as we think may sound harsh, but it is in fact a gift. It brings us relief. It frees us from invisible pressure. It restores our right to live authentically. When you truly grasp and accept this, you will realize other people's gaze is like a passing breeze. It cannot define you. It cannot pull you down unless you allow it to. And once you stop magnifying the importance of others in your mind, you will step into life with a newfound steadiness, calm, confident, and free. Number 2, freedom in accepting this truth. There is a special power that only emerges when you truly grasp that, most of the time, no one cares about you as much as you think. The moment you stop living to please the crowd, you will feel a new breeze. Freedom. This freedom is not loud, nor is it about doing whatever you please. It is the stillness of the mind, the relief that comes when you realize you no longer have to strain to prove yourself, to earn recognition, or to seek praise. You can fail without feeling ashamed. You can speak your opinion without fearing ridicule. You can live true to your nature without hiding behind a social mask. The fear of others' gaze is an invisible burden. It makes you cautious in every action. It turns you into an actor in your own life, constantly weighing whether your performance will please the audience. But when you accept that the audience hardly pays attention, you find yourself liberated from that stage. You become the writer of your own script. In work, this brings extraordinary focus. Instead of worrying about whether colleagues will judge your ideas, you devote yourself fully to developing your skills and perfecting your work. Free from the obsession with appearances, you dare to experiment, dare to create, dare to make bold decisions. Many entrepreneurs have shared that their success began the moment they stopped paying attention to public chatter and simply stayed committed to what they believed was right. In personal life, this freedom helps you live more authentically. You can decline unnecessary gatherings, say no to unreasonable demands, and choose the path that aligns with your values, even if no one understands. This is not selfishness, it is self-respect. The Stoics called it living according to nature, to live true to reason and essence, unshaped by external pressures. This freedom also makes you less afraid of failure. When you stop caring about what others think, failure becomes a lesson, not a verdict. You can rise after each fall without being haunted by laughter. You learn faster, progress faster, because you no longer waste energy defending your reputation. Picture this: an artist stepping on stage, not to be applauded, but to give everything to the art. An entrepreneur starting a business, not to prove himself to anyone, but to realize an idea he believes could change the world. An ordinary person choosing a simple life, not to display humility, but because it brings him the greatest peace. All three share the same point. They have touched freedom by no longer depending on the gaze of others. Stoicism pointed to this path centuries ago. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is not achieved by fulfilling every desire, but by caring less about what is beyond your control." The recognition of others has never been within our control, but our thoughts, our actions, and our choices always are. When you place your energy on what you can control, you will find stability regardless of the storms outside. And then, something strange happens. You become more magnetic. Others respect you more because they sense the strength of a person who is not bound by praise or criticism. But that respect is now only a bonus, no longer something you crave. This is what true freedom is: doing what is right, not because of who is watching, but because it is the choice you trust. Living a life that is upright and serene, without needing validation from anyone. Number 3. Lessons from the Stoic philosophers. If you want to understand more deeply what it means to live free from the gaze and judgment of others, return to the Stoic masters. They lived under harsh circumstances, enduring pressures 100 times greater than ours, yet they still found tranquility. And from them, we can draw profound lessons that apply directly to our lives today. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, stands as the first example. He ruled a vast empire, carrying on his shoulders thousands of decisions that affected the fate of millions. No one was scrutinized more than he. Every action, every decree, every decision was subject to commentary. Yet, in the pages of meditations that he wrote to himself, Marcus continually reminded himself, "Do not concern yourself with what others say, do, or think. Only concern yourself with whether you live according to reason and justice." He understood that if he chased praise and criticism, he would lose direction. Only by anchoring himself in his inner compass, reason and virtue, could he remain calm amid political storms. The story of Marcus Aurelius teaches us this. It does not matter whether you lead an empire or live as an ordinary individual, public opinion will always exist. And public opinion always shifts, one moment cheering, the next condemning. If you rely on it to define your worth, your life becomes like a small boat tossed about by raging seas. But if you anchor yourself in principles and reason, you will stand as a lighthouse unmoved by any storm. Next is Epictetus, a freed slave who became one of the greatest Stoic philosophers. He once endured contempt, mistreatment, and even violence. Yet from that seemingly lowly condition, he drew a profound truth. No one can harm you unless you allow it. Epictetus affirmed that a person's true worth does not lie in status or praise, but in the way one holds fast to virtue in every circumstance. Picture this: a man once treated as a mere tool, yet able to declare himself free, because he refused to let his soul be chained. That freedom did not come from recognition by others, but from within. Epictetus's lesson reminds us, do not wait for approval to affirm your worth. Do not let judgment, no matter how harsh, decide your value. That worth already resides inside you, and only you hold the right to claim it. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, offers a more practical perspective. He once served as advisor to Emperor Nero, living through days fraught with danger and suspicion. Seneca knew well how the watchful eyes, envy, and rumors could exhaust a person. But instead of letting them destroy him, he chose a simple lifestyle and deliberately cultivated independence. In his letters to friends, he often reminded them, if you want freedom, learn to disregard public opinion. He encouraged his students to wear plain clothes and live frugally, training themselves to escape the fear of others' judgments. Seneca understood, people suffer not because of poverty itself, but because they fear what others will think of their poverty. Once you become accustomed to living without display, you find yourself unbound by the gaze of the crowd. From a modern perspective, Seneca's lesson is deeply practical. Today, many exhaust themselves chasing appearances. The house must be luxurious, the car new, the clothes fashionable, and the phone the latest model. All for the sake of being recognized. But if we find the courage to live simply, to buy and spend according to genuine need, we discover a vast reservoir of freedom. When we stop guarding appearances, we make space for developing the inner self, wisdom, and genuine relationships. These three Stoic figures, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, though from vastly different backgrounds, converge on one truth. They all focused on what is internal rather than external. They all affirm that public opinion is beyond our control, and, therefore, should never be granted the power to define our lives. Today, the pressure no longer comes from Roman politics or the life of slavery. Yet we still live surrounded by the gaze of others. A post with few likes can sadden us, and a small criticism can unsettle us. In reality, these are the new chains of modern times. Without awareness, we become prisoners of invisible judgment. By applying the lessons of the Stoics, we can free ourselves. Remember, Marcus, focus on reason and virtue, not on opinion. Remember Epictetus, no one can harm you unless you allow it. Remember Seneca, freedom comes when you stop caring about the gaze of others. When you practice these principles, you will feel a transformation. The anxiety over praise and criticism will fade. You begin to act for what is right, not for applause. You appreciate recognition when it comes, but you no longer depend on it. Above all, you live a life that is light and authentic, where your value is determined from within, not in the fleeting glance of others. This is the gift the Stoic philosophers have left us. A path to live free, steadfast, regardless of the storms of public opinion. Number 4. Applying Stoicism in modern life. Stoic philosophy is not lofty words meant only to sound profound. Its greatest value lies in the fact that we can apply it directly to daily life. When we truly understand that most people do not care about us nearly as much as we imagine, we can shed many layers of invisible pressure and begin to live more simply, more focused, and more joyfully. In work, many choose careers not out of passion, but because they believe the job is stable, respected by society, or makes the family proud. Yet no matter which path you take, public opinion will always have something to say. Choose safety, and they'll say you lack ambition. Choose risk, and they'll call you reckless. Succeed, and some will envy you. Fail, and some will rejoice at your downfall. If you live by the eyes of others, you will forever be caught in an endless cycle. It is a cage of expectation that robs work of joy, leaving only the fatigue of playing a role society approves of. By applying Stoicism, you learn to ask yourself, does this work truly align with my values and life goals? Instead of chasing prestige or salary to prove yourself to others, you choose a job that allows you to cultivate discipline, contribute value, and grow as a person. You realize that gossip will always fade, but the skills, experience, and character you build are your real assets. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The worth of a man is in proportion to the objects he pursues." When you work with a focus on genuine values, you will no longer be swayed by praise or criticism. And paradoxically, when you stop seeking recognition, you often receive it more easily, because sincere dedication carries its own power. In relationships, the fear of judgment runs even deeper. Many worry about what their partner will think if they show weakness. Fear, their spouse will mock them if they fail. Fear family disapproval if they choose someone unconventional. These fears turn love into a stage where everyone wears a mask. But Stoicism teaches that love can only last if it is built on authenticity. If you live in a relationship only to please others, it will eventually fracture because you have sacrificed yourself. But if you dare to live honestly, to reveal both strengths and weaknesses, to love in the way you believe is right, only then can you build a free and healthy relationship. Seneca once said, "The happy man is the one who is in harmony with himself." The same is true in love. You do not need the world's approval. You only need you and your partner to build trust, respect, and honesty together. Once you stop worrying about society's gaze, love becomes lighter and deeper. So how can we turn Stoic thought into a daily habit? There are 3 simple but powerful practices. The first is daily journaling. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Meditations not for publication, but to remind himself." You too can take a few minutes to write, "Whose opinion affected me today? Was it really worth it?" This small question helps untangle invisible chains. The second is meditation and mindful breathing. When you feel yourself worrying about judgment, pause, take a deep breath, and remind yourself, this is only a thought, not reality. That moment helps you step back from emotion and regain control. The third is remembering impermanence. The Stoics often contemplated death not to become pessimistic, but to cherish the present. When you remember that every gaze, every word of praise or criticism will fade like dust, you see how little weight they truly hold. The only thing that matters is whether you are living according to reason and virtue. In a competitive world where everyone tries to prove they are smart, wealthy, and happy, daring to live authentically is already an act of courage. When you stop caring about recognition, you begin to enjoy work with lightness, to build relationships with sincerity, and to face yourself with peace. This is how we apply Stoicism in modern life. Not by retreating from the world, but by walking within it with a new posture. Steady, free, and clear-minded. Number 5. Examples and illustrative stories. Stoic philosophy comes alive most vividly when illuminated through real stories. They help us not only to understand with reason, but to feel with the heart. To see clearly that when we accept the truth, no one cares as much as we think. Life truly changes. There was once a young man who lived haunted by the gaze of others. Every remark from colleagues kept him restless through the night. Each time his boss frowned, he blamed himself. He was even afraid to post a casual photo on social media, fearing it wasn't polished enough. That pressure made him a prisoner in his own life. One day, he came across a line from Epictetus: "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." He began to experiment, dressing comfortably for work, daring to voice his true opinions, and posting simple photos without caring about likes. And to his surprise, he realized no one paid as much attention as he had imagined. In that moment, he discovered peace and a new energy to live true to himself. In history, Marcus Aurelius is the grand proof. As emperor of Rome, he was scrutinized by millions. Had he lived by public opinion, he might have collapsed. But instead of chasing the gaze of others, he wrote meditations to remind himself, "Do not concern yourself with what others think. Care only that you live uprightly." Thus, amid political storms, he preserved his calm. His story shows us this: if a man carrying an empire could live lightly before public opinion, then we ordinary people can surely do the same. In modern life, there was a young woman whose world revolved around social media. Every photo she posted determined her mood based on likes and comments. When few people reacted, she felt worthless. One day, she decided to delete the app for a week. At first, she was restless, but soon she realized the world kept turning, and hardly anyone noticed her absence. That week, she read books, took walks, and spent time with her family. And she understood that true joy does not come from virtual gazes, but from real experiences. From then on, she changed how she used social media, sharing because she wanted to, not to be validated. Science, too, confirms this through the spotlight effect. Psychologists asked participants to wear conspicuous t-shirts and walk into crowded rooms. When asked, participants believed that over half the room had noticed them. In reality, fewer than 25% had. This research shows how we exaggerate the attention of others. Everyone is busy with their own world. No one has the time to think about us as much as we suppose. There was another middle-aged man who chose to leave a high-paying city job to open a small cafe in his hometown. At first, gossip spread. What a waste of his education. He must have failed and run away. He felt the weight, but then remembered Seneca's words. If you want freedom, and learn to disregard public opinion. He held firm to his choice, living simply, growing vegetables, brewing coffee, and chatting with his guests. Over time, people stopped talking, and he found true happiness because he was living authentically. These stories, from a Roman emperor to a modern young woman, from scientific studies to a simple man, point to the same truth. Most people do not care as much as we think. When we accept this truth, we gain freedom. Freedom to try, to fail, to rise again. Freedom to love authentically. Freedom to work with real passion. Freedom to live simply, without bending under public opinion. Think of yourself. How many times have you feared the gaze of others, only to realize a month later that no one remembered? How many opportunities have you missed out of fear of gossip, while others have long forgotten? These experiences prove that the jailer is not others, it is our own mind. When you let go of the need to be noticed, you will feel lighter. Life will open wider, opportunities and will multiply, and your heart will find peace. This is the spirit of Stoicism. Freedom not through praise, but by returning to mastery of the self. Number 6. Self-transformation. Knowing that most people do not care much about us is already an awakening, but only when that awareness is turned into action does life truly change. The Stoics never stopped at understanding. They transformed their knowledge into a way of living. And you, too, can begin today, with simple yet powerful steps. The first step is recognizing the truth. Ask yourself, how many times each day do you worry about others' gazes or judgments? How many of your decisions are made simply to please them? When you dare to face this, you will realize you are bound more than you imagined. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Freedom begins the moment we recognize we are enslaved. Recognition alone already carries you halfway toward liberation." The next step is letting go of the need for approval. The Stoics remind us, focus on what lies within your control. The opinions, praise, or criticism of others never belong to you. Why then sacrifice your peace for something you cannot hold? You can practice letting go in very small ways. Resist the urge to check likes right after posting. Don't force yourself to explain everything when misunderstood. And don't allow an offhand remark to linger in your mind all day. When you stop chasing outside approval, you begin learning how to return to self-approval. But letting go does not mean letting yourself go. On the contrary, it opens the way for you to act according to your core values. Ask yourself, what truly matters to me? Who do I want to become? These questions will be your compass. From there, let each decision, no matter how small, arise from the values you believe in, not from the expectations of others. Epictetus once advised, "Do not ask where the easiest path lies, ask where the right path lies." When you act from values, you will feel a different kind of energy, steady, resolute, and authentic. Finally, maintain this through Stoic habits. Transformation cannot happen overnight. It requires persistent repetition. The Stoics left us many practices. Journaling at night to reflect, as Marcus Aurelius did, spending a few minutes each morning anticipating that people will judge you, and reminding yourself that it is their concern, not yours. Recalling impermanence, that a year from now, a month from now, even just days from now, no one will remember today's praise or blame, but the character you build will remain. Self-transformation does not mean turning you into someone cold or detached from life. It is a journey to live within the world without being ruled by it, to smile at praise and criticism alike, to remain calm in failure, humble in success. You do not need the whole world's recognition. You only need your own. And when you achieve that, you hold in your hands the most precious freedom of all: inner freedom. Number 7. Conclusion. The final lesson. This journey has taken us from recognizing the truth to letting go of the gaze of others, learning from the Stoic philosophers, and applying their wisdom to daily life. And there is one central message we must engrave in our hearts: most people do not care about us as much as we think. When we truly accept this, a new door opens the door to inner freedom. From childhood, we have grown accustomed to living for praise, to pleasing others, to seeking recognition. We grow up measuring our worth through the eyes of others. But think again. How much meaning do the praises or criticisms of 5 years ago, or even last month, still carry now? Almost none. Others have moved on with their own lives, while we continue to bind ourselves in invisible chains. Stoicism reminds us, true value does not come from public opinion, but from how we live with ourselves. Marcus Aurelius urged us to keep reason and virtue as our compass. Epictetus said no one can harm us unless we allow it. Seneca advised us to disregard public opinion to live free. These teachings, spoken over 2,000 years ago, remain guiding lights for us today. When we stop seeking recognition from the outside, we begin to find peace within. When we are no longer anxious about the gaze of others, we dare to walk our own path, to fail, to rise again, to live authentically. And paradoxically, it is precisely when we stop craving recognition that we become stronger and more trustworthy in the eyes of others. The final lesson is this: do not let your life be driven by passing glances. Do not let momentary praise or criticism define your lasting worth. Focus on what lies within your control: your thoughts, your actions, your character. That is the foundation upon which you can live a calm and free life. Begin today. Try living authentically for once. Try letting go of the need for recognition. Try asking yourself, am I living according to what I believe is right? Each small step will gradually lead you to a lighter, more self-possessed life. You do not need the whole world to care. You only need to look in the mirror and be able to smile at yourself. That is the quiet yet greatest victory. And that is the spirit of Stoicism. Freedom, courage, peace regardless of the storms of public opinion. If you have found these reflections helpful and wish to continue hearing more stories and Stoic principles applied to modern life, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. This will be the place where we learn, practice, and nurture a soul that is steadier, freer, and more serene with each passing day.